cars and they all black. Got 4 bras and they all that. We call that ballin'. Doing this is my calling. Flow is so appalling.
What's up? I'm Sal.
I'm RJ. This is Dos.
And Tres. This week, we are continuing our series into the biggest training camp questions and continuing on with the AFC North. So for the Browns, obviously the question is quarterback. And it's not as clean cut as years past where it's just like, they're going to throw one guy out there specifically. This year they have 3 guys, and it's either going to be the starter or mostly started last year, Cody Kessler, rookie this year, Deshaun Kaiser out of Notre Dame, or Texans garbage, Brock Osweiler that got thrown to the Browns in a trade. So Osweiler, he's been the starter right now in minicamp and OTAs and all that, and it's said to look good. The same could be said about Kaiser. And Kessler's been the forgotten man, but I thought he played pretty good last year.
I like Kessler. I'm a big fan of it.
I mean, he fought a lot of adversity days with the Browns. I mean, he didn't have many weapons, and he actually had a pretty good quarterback rating, when he was clean in the pocket. So I don't know why he's not getting the primary shot here, but Hugh Jackson is supposed to be a quarterback guy, as we said before, so we'll see what happens. Kaiser has all the talent in the world, has a strong arm, big body guy. I'd like to see him in the role. Physically, he outshines the other 2 by far. Osweiler's also got a strong arm, but there's history there already. You've seen him on tape, you know what you're going to get. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, for Browns fans, this should be an actually entertaining training camp from the quarterback position battle standpoint. And as far as other pieces on the offense, I mean, they don't have a bad offensive line. They have Bitonio and guys like Joe Thomas who's going to go into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, Hall of Famer for sure.
Yeah, and hopefully on the wide receiver depth, hopefully Coleman can come along this year. And as far as Josh Gordon goes, I'm not too sure how that situation is going to work out. I think he should be reinstated, but that's a topic for another day. The defensive side of the ball, they have Brantley, Ogba, Garrett, they drafted Peppers. I mean, Hayden is an aging guy though, but that's a strong core unit right there. And they got, what's his name from the Patriots, Collins last year. I mean, These guys, they have all the talent in the world and the potential. It's just to see how well they gel together or how long that's going to take for them to finally come along and play as a real unit, because call out those names and that's scary. I mean, to me it is. That's going to be one of the predominant front 7 hopefully for years to come, and we'll just see how fast they gel together, and them gelling together and coming along is going to determine what Jackson's job, how long he's around for.
And those are just the big name guys. I mean, former first-round pick Danny Shelton, pretty good nose tackle on their defense. And they also have Christian Kirksey, who they just extended. Pretty good linebacker to pair with Jamie Collins. So they definitely have all the pieces, a lot of potential. Is that going to turn into reality? We don't know. I mean, they're in a pretty high-powered division as far as the Pittsburgh Steelers go. But a lot of things are going to be riding on whether this defense and then the offense really pans out.
All right, moving on to the next team in the division, the Cincinnati Bengals. The 2 rookies that they drafted, John Ross and Joe Mixon, the premier ones they drafted in the beginning, they need production from them, I feel, right away. Not Zeke production, right away rookie, but they need something from them to start off the season, because last year, losing Sanu and losing Marvin Jones, I don't know what they were expecting Boyd to come in and do, the rookie they drafted last year, but it didn't happen, and there was no help besides Dalton going to Green, and that was it. And inconsistency from Hill and Bernard the whole entire season. Ross and Mixon are, to me, as a Bengals fan, I'm going to need them to come in and produce right away and show some star power.
The thing with these 2 players is they're really going to need their explosiveness and their speed, because they lost Kevin Zeitler, their starting guard, and then Andrew Whitworth, their starting left tackle, to free agency. Whenever you have a bad offensive line, you really need those explosive plays to keep the defense off the quarterback. And they had trouble doing that last year even. So losing those 2 guys who are tops in the NFL, close to the top 5, that's already going to be hindering them. The injuries and inconsistencies with the weapons that they currently have just compounds the issue. So a lot's going to be riding on these 2 rookies. So with the Ravens, they've always been known to have pretty good defense, but in recent years, since they had that Super Bowl run, their offense really hasn't been up to par. They're really middle of the road, doing basic things, run the ball, get like maybe 1 or 2 yards, and then have play action, let Joe Flacco drop back and just chunk it. And they really don't have many weapons other than now really Mike Wallace. They lost Steve Smith, finally he retired, and they don't really have pieces.
They picked up Macklin, but I still don't see him as a top tier 1 or anything, and that's what they really needed. And I know as we speak, they were saying that they were trying to go after Decker too, but Decker just signed with the Titans. So to me, there's no weapons besides the biggest weapon is the one that's not even on the field with year 11 at the time, and that's Justin Tucker on the sideline until he comes on the field.
The cannon leg and the cannon arm of Joe Flacco, those are the two biggest weapons.
One's elite and one's not. It's your job to guess which one's not.
So Macklin, I like Macklin a lot. I've said this before. I think he's the top tier receiver. Low end wide receiver 1, but does Mike Wallace really complement him? I don't know. I think Mike Wallace working with Steve Smith, he wasn't going to F around with Steve Smith. Nobody is. Because Wallace is a very volatile personality. So bringing Macklin, he's a very relaxed, chill dude. I don't know if they're going to work out together. Again, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So for the Ravens defense, like we said before, they've always been known for defense and a very veteran defense, but that's kind of changed this year. Their whole draft was very defensive geared. In the first round, they took Marlon Humphrey. Second round, Tyus Bowser. In the third round, they took Tim Williams. So those 3 guys, I mean, they're pretty good players, but you're going to be expecting a lot from them. Kind of like the Bengals offense expecting a lot from their offensive rookies. The defense is going to be expecting a lot from these defensive rookies. But generally, rookies don't get thrown out, day one as starters on defense. Offense, that's more likely. I feel like a couple of them are at least going to be thrown out with the first team defense, but it's going to be interesting to see. Next up is the Steelers, the top of this division. And for the Steelers, this guy has all the talent in the world. There's no denying that. And that's Le'Veon Bell. With his contract coming up, I think he's still holding out right now.
With that, he's not going to lose any money considering the 1 year's tender, but he hasn't signed it yet. He's not going to lose any money because of that, whether he decides to sit out or not.
What we're talking about is basically whenever they're going into contract talks, they're going to have to be weighing the talent that I spoke about. There's no denying it. Versus all the off-field issues that he's had. And on top of that, the value of the running back position. We've seen teams the last couple years take star running backs in the 4th and 5th rounds, going all the way back to Jamal Charles out of Texas. He's the one that I always think about. But last year, Jordan Howard for the Bears. So they're really going to have to think about, do I want to really pay this guy, 10, 12 million a year whenever this position is so finicky? Like, you can get a superstar in pretty much any round. Plus the fact that he hasn't really shown any signs of improving his attitude off the field. I mean, the guy sometimes seems like he's more focused on smoking pot than he does playing on the football field. So that's a big decision coming, and it's gonna be something to see, especially since they just signed Antonio Brown to the big contract. So they have one big offensive weapon. Do you really want to pay a second?
With the Antonio Brown, the second wide receiver position, Martavius is coming back off of suspension this year. They drafted Juju Smith. I know there was some controversy with the receiver with Martavius tweeting at
Sammy Coates.
Yeah, Sammy Coates when they drafted Juju, and he said Martavius tweeted to Sammy, "No, that's your replacement, not mine." I don't know how that's gonna work out. But
another guy who can't stop thinking about
can't
pot.
stop thinking about that. Just shows the type of attitude. Even though it's just playing around, that shows the type of attitude. I wouldn't even say anything like that. Like, that's your replacement.
You got to earn your spot back.
Exactly.
Team.
That just shows the mentality, the dumb mentality that him and I think a guy like Bell still has.
So for the Steelers defense, similar to the Ravens, those two defenses would always clash, being pretty good defenses in the NFL. But now they've been aging. Like, it seems like all the way since they've lost Troy Polamalu, they haven't caught back up to, getting young. I like Ryan Shazier, and that's pretty much it on their defense. But they really haven't addressed, needs in recent years. They've always been an offensive team. They really shifted towards that. I know this year they took TJ Watt. He'll talk about him. I think he's a developmental guy. And in their secondary, they took Artie Burns, but he's just one guy. I mean, that whole secondary needs to be retooled. They've just been getting toasted year after year. If you really look at this team, defense minus Ryan Shazier is a very big weakness.
As far as their pass rush goes, I mean, they have Hayward, who's kind of getting up there a little bit in age. They have Tuet, who's been playing pretty good. The outside linebacker they drafted, Bud Dupree, he really hasn't had that much production. And as far as drafting TJ Watt, some teams didn't see him as put your hand in the ground, predominant pass rusher. That's why teams like the Cowboys and others passed on him because they didn't see him as that guy. So depending on how they're going to use him, which I obviously see, I know he's going to stand up, but they need some pass rush, so I can see them trying to use TJ a lot as that, see how that comes along through training camp, and see where you end up at the start of the season where you decide how you're going to play him.
I guess basically we just wanted to see this defense get a whole lot younger quick, kind of like what the Ravens did, and roll the dice with them, but really they're just rolling the dice with the same old guys that they always have out there, including 500-year-old James Harrison. So that's it for the AFC North, going into all their biggest questions for training camp. If you like this video and you want to see more, go ahead and subscribe at Dos and Tres. And if you want to become a super subscriber, hit the bell next to the subscribe button.
And go follow all of our social media accounts on Twitter and Facebook at Dos and Tres YT.
Peace.
Peace. See you later.
Okay, it's rap pack to my post flat. We keep it real, no false rap. I got 4 cars and they all black. Got 4 bras and they all that. We call that ballin'. Doing this is my calling. Flow is so appalling. My phone off and she calling. I'm like, yeah, what it do? Penthouse, man, what a view. Fall back cause I'm coming through with my whole team. They coming too, that's real.